Melbourne is undoubtedly a colonial territory. Its face is Anglo-European, with sandstone universities, Flinders Street stations, French Renaissance design, and state libraries' Corinthian columns. Our plaques and statue memoirs to settlers, monoliths and obelisks dedicated to the so-called Australian national identity of Union Jacks and Anzac slouch hats worn by those who fought and died for the idea of king, commonwealth, and country, line our roads and streets. All of these images and symbols of this colonial past sit rooted in and between the modest grandeur of modernity that fill the streets and city skyline. But colonialism is more than just a historical happening in its visual marks. It is a complex process involved in the continual construction of subjectivities, of the bodies and systems of relating and living, thinking and moving that constitute these assemblages. These affections diminish in order to maintain the consistency of this territory, where particular kinds of expression are privileged and created, into higher ways of thinking and living are incorporated into the bodies of people and institutions and processes that inhabit and make this city. Colonialism involves itself with subjectivities by reproducing the logics and regimes of meanings and expression that keep it stable and consistent. Logics of individuality, of separating the past and present, and of separating us from the world and culture. On one hand, the city and its institutions will acknowledge colonialism, and on the other, it perpetuates the processes of colonialism here and abroad. But colonial assemblages and their expressions are not totemistic. The city assemblage contradicts itself. It is large, it contains multitudes. To move throughout the city is to encounter aspects of Melbourne that offer alternative expressions, or demonstrate their recuperation to colonial processes. Where might we find alternate expressions, decolonial expressions in the city? What expressions practice or produce transversal? Opening doors closed by convention, letting in experimental alternatives to current organizations and hierarchies, new languages and systems of meaning, of subjectivity within the world and the movements of the world. Where can we cross into transversal territories? The city has many levels, and many places where differences interact within and in between the systems of colonialism. Here we might find the kinds of expressions that are relegated, lining the walls of the alleyways that snake through and outside the city, plastered over concrete enclaves along train lines and roadsides. Non-privileged and minoritarian expressions are everywhere. How do these bodies, these expressions in the gap, affect other bodies? Do billboards and spray-painted murals open cracks in the assemblage, ways out, and new ways of moving? If graffiti and street art was enough to totally disrupt the current state of things, revolutionaries would carry spray paint and stencils instead of rifles. We pass by this art every day, often without a thought, or little more than an acknowledgement. time looking for change painted on the walls of alleyways and between skyscrapers, whilst this change was actively assembling everywhere as processes. New assemblages, teeming with bodies and affections, deliberately decolonial, organised across the city in bars and classrooms, workplaces and sharehouses, and then took to the streets trying to change them. And all the artwork and graffiti, flyers and posters mightn't have created these movements, but they certainly led us to them. Expressions of solidarity on walls and affirmations of the vast differences in the city. They disrupt the consistency of the colony and create gaps through which we can flow through toward new assemblages, new kinds of movements, and new subjectivities. Embrace the sensations of the city. See the call to arms on pylons and on the walls of institutions that display and acknowledge the flags and cultures of our First Nations peoples as an attempt at saving face, and follow these lines and push through the contradictions of the territory. What changes and what maintains? This is transversality, amplifying the utterances of those the colony attempts to silence, organized around the possibility of more. Territories are destroyed and new ones take their place, not when the landscape is leveled, but when the structures that give the landscape meaning and the systems of relation become untenable. And the expressions of the colony are replaced or diminished to make way for subjectivities that augment difference. We see in the streets the expressions of a new assemblage, spoken in a multitude of languages and unified by the affirmation of life and futures. An assemblage moving towards decolonial understandings, towards augmentative futures. What territory do we meet on? What bodies constitute? What expressions are possible? Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Demand what is deemed impossible. Decolonial struggles are militant. This territory and its conditions can't change without contestation, but they are necessary.